VizVibe, and we create AR experiences, and we just released our AR Launchpad app and platform for augmented reality. Very simple, 5 clicks and you have retrofitted AR. The platform's rolling out in the next 2 weeks and the apps are on the store. We also have a Learn version that we're partnering with the United States Postal Service. They're going to use it through their educational outreach with all the colleges and universities that utilize AR for learning. So we're pretty excited about that. So it's been a pretty good month for the company. So let's just dive right into it and talk about AR. So a lot of times when we start talking about it, people get this glazed look over their eyes, right? Has anybody heard of AR, augmented reality? You probably heard of it and you're like, oh my gosh, that's that new trend that's happening. But actually, it was invented in like 1968. Isn't that crazy to think about? There was this science major, computer science major, but back then it was like tethered to the roof and they overlaid like boxes on things and they were just line drawn things. So if somebody says to you, augmented reality is fairly new, I don't know where you're living, if it was back in the 60s, but that's when it started. So with augmented reality, a lot of people are like, well, how do we actually connect our brand, our products, our services to it? And then on the education side, and this is the cool thing about it, when we sit down and talk with educators, they get it. This is like a whole new way to help engage the students with their lessons and their materials that they already have. See, it's not about replacing. A lot of times what happens in tech is a new technology will come along. Yep. A new technology will come along, and what will happen is everyone will jump on it. This is what you have to do. Like back in the days when I was in marketing and social media really blew out, there were so many marketing agencies that were like, you need to be on everything. And we're gonna charge you for it, but you're gonna be on everything, because we know that's best. What do we know now? Not really best. You know? So with augmented reality, the thing is if you think of it as a tool in your tool belt, it works with your marketing. It works with the materials that you already have, and you can create new ones. So we're going to talk about some examples about it, but the educators that get it realize, like, wait a second. So if I give a handout to my students, and I went and I toured Valley Forge, and I took videos in front of the different buildings and the different areas, and I talked about Washington and the camp and how it was a miserable winter, and a lot of people wanted to leave, right? But all I have is this printout, or they go and download my PDF. Well, now what you can do is you could scan the imagery, even if it's in black and white, and a video can play that you shot while you were there. So now your students are engaged with the materials you already have. In marketing, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. Honesdale National Bank, we started working together on some promotional materials. They're going to hopefully be the first ones on our platform, which we're very excited about. So we're going to walk through what they designed, and we did it relatively fast. It took, how long did it take? You actually utilized stuff that you already had, right?
We recreated some things.
And it was pretty good turnaround? Like what was it? Like just a couple days, right?
I hope so.
Yeah,
Right?
2 to 3 days.
2 to 3 days. And as soon as you got us the content, we plugged it in and it was live to the world through our app, okay? So let's talk about augmented reality. Eric, if you don't mind hitting that. My clicker. I always forget something. So augmented reality, and I don't like reading from PowerPoints, but basically what it is it allows you to see overlaid content in reality. What does that mean? Well, basically, if I have a video, I have a 3D model, I have a link that I want you to go to, I have an audio file, I could have a green screen person, like if I was filming Ben Franklin, and a reenactor of Ben Franklin, and I stood in front of the statue, Ben Franklin could be talking to you about whatever's happening on the statue. So they're basically overlays. Eric? And again, it's all of the different kind of content is the overlays. Now, we get into some advanced animations and what, that really brings alive. I know with the Postal Service, they have an innovation, irresistible mail is what they do. And they're really going after colleges and universities to teach the marketing students, the graphic design students, several of my students that are actually shooting, I also teach, that are filming are from our college too, Luzerne County Community College. They've been working with me on a prolonged, multifaceted project, creating a direct mailer that links out to augmented reality or QR codes. But what the Postal Service is doing is making the packaging come alive, making anything on a direct mailer pop out. And that's where the animations come in, because it really engages people with your product and your brand. Again, remembering the key thing, it's not going to replace, if you think it's going to replace that, you're in the wrong idea there. Augmented reality, virtual reality, mixed reality, all of those, MIR, XD, all of that are tools for you to use. The misconception, the goggles. Oh my gosh, you gotta put those goggles on and walk around town. No, not really. You could use the devices that you have in your hand. Most people will experience augmented reality through this. And this is probably more, you would be doing virtual reality, which means you're immersed into a new world when you put those goggles on. As opposed to if I hold up my phone, I still see all of you, but I can see additional content laid out wherever I want it. And plus, this is just a bad idea. Don't ride your bike with these goggles on, because I saw this and I was like, oh, we gotta do a PSA for that, because that's horrible. So, what we're gonna talk about is, it's about the story. And I'm guilty of this. Everybody that's in marketing and advertising, we've been here before. We always talk about the importance of story, but we often forget what makes a good story work. And it's that human emotion, the interest. And quite frankly, if you turn on your TV is a wonderful thing, right? Every time you turn on your television set, you should be like, holy crap, that's the best thing since sliced bread. Think about the technology and how it goes into your house. Instead, what do? Oh, they're watching paint dry. Oh, they're cooking that again. Oh, there's a haunted house thing. I saw that 1,000 times, right? You look at a marketing rap sheet, or you look at a sales sheet that somebody gave you, and it's like, oh, this is great. I see where I gotta be. I see what it is. But it doesn't really engage you or continue that story. The hardest thing for you to do is think about, how do I tell a story that will engage people enough to really be invested into my brand, my product, my service, my lesson, okay? And what that does, once you figure that out, that's where all of a sudden the lines blur. We talk about the story. I did the last tech conference over the summer, if any of you were there. I talked about transmedia storytelling. It's like, oh my gosh, what's that word? All transmedia storytelling is this. First of all, I just want to ask, is there any students in here? Are you in marketing, advertising? What are you in?
Marketing.
Marketing?
I'm on computer science.
Computer science?
Computer science.
Anybody in the back?
Business.
Business management? Wow, look at the business people. No, you're like ready to go. The computer. In the back, students? Business? Okay, cool.
Mechanical engineer.
What?
Mechanical engineer.
Oh man, we'll talk. These robot cars and stuff are really cool. So transmedia storytelling, just for you guys, is understanding the idea of every product, every service that you create as a company, or the companies that you're going to work for, has a story. Where did it come from? How did you get into it? When you build it, what does it look like? How's it going to look in the factory? And so on. So telling that story across multiple platforms, social media, your website, augmented reality, maybe you're going to do a virtual tour. When you put that all together, people can come in from different demographics really different age groups, different points in their career, in their life, and on the platform they're used to. It's not just on one that you have to experience it. But once you bring all those people into the central message, that's where you tell your story. That's where you get that emotional connection. So maybe somebody is going to find you, and then you utilize, say somebody comes in through social media. They follow a link from social media that somebody posted on their Twitter account. They follow you to LinkedIn. They take a look at your company's profile. They follow a link to a blog that wrote about your new product or service. They link back to your website. Your website sends them to an app so that they can scan their monitor, or if they're able to have it overlaid. And now they're actually interacting through AR with that exact product or service, and they're getting a feel for it. So when they actually see it, they want to buy it. Okay? Eric? So what you want to do is you want to encourage engagement across a range of demographics and interest levels. That's what we just talked about. And create an emotional experience with your product, service, brand, or content. Why? How many of you love pop-ups when you're online? How many of you love those? Like you're like, I can't get enough of pop-ups. I'm gonna go and so exactly, none of us like that. One of the cool things about AR when we're talking about it in marketing is you're putting the power for your user or the people that are experimenting or experiencing your product or your service, or even your educational part. You're putting that power, instead of saying, I'm gonna force you to put the X on this pop-up that you're never gonna be able to find because I'm gonna hide it. So you're gonna click and then it's gonna send you to this landing page to get your information. With AR, you're giving them a level of control. And they're most likely going to follow through because now they can do it when they're available to look at it. So it's not forcing the pop-up. It's like, here it is. Here's a little icon, which I'll show you in a little bit, to indicate it's there. Take it with you when you're at home or when you have free time. Don't do it when you're driving. But when you're, that's my PSA. Scan it, and you're gonna get additional information. The other thing about it is, if somebody is scanning it or interacting with it, the people around them are gonna get engaged with that product or service as well. We did a test, go ahead, Eric. Sound is one of the projects that we've worked on in the last couple of years, but before that, I just want to say, I did a test down in Gettysburg with our platform, and what I did was, I noticed over the last couple of years, I love just going down there and camping, but that's a whole other personal thing. But I noticed when I was down on the battlefields, people would be like this and going like this, and I never thought about it. I just always thought they were taking pictures. So when I took down our beta last year, right, over this last summer, I'm watching and I'm like, wait a second, they're not taking pictures. They're literally standing on the battlefield, zooming in so they could see the Pennsylvania Monument from Round Top. Or they're zooming in to Devil's Den so that they can see it. So I'm like, all right. So I had the platform with me. So I said to my wife, I'm like, she's like, you're gonna work, aren't you? I'm like, yes, I am. It's gonna be all right. So we went down to the Pennsylvania Monument, went over to Devil's Den. I shot some videos where the sniper sits, but it wasn't really a sniper. The poor kid, they drug him up and put him there. And the next day, I went, and those signs that are there that the people are reading that says Pennsylvania Monuments over there, Devil Day, I scanned that, uploaded it from the battlefield, and then I waited for a bus. You know the tourism buses? I waited for one. And there they come, and I'm like, And I scan it, and the Pennsylvania Monument video's there playing, and then I go over, and I can see where the sniper's den was in Devil's Den, and people just started coming. And I was like, oh yeah, this is a new thing that's happening here. But it's that point of sharing which makes it transmedia as well. Because once you share that, they're not just gonna go and look at the AR, they're also gonna go into your other marketing things, because they're gonna be like, you know what, if they're engaging with that, their social media must be updated. So they're gonna go, you gotta give them value. You gotta give people value, that's the key. So Selma, for the story, Selma is the marches of 1965. A lot of people think that there was only one, but there were three. And this guy everybody knows, he didn't really come, he wasn't at the first one. A lot of people were like, what? No. So Spider Martin is a famous photographer, and he got sent out as a stringer. The newspaper said, oh, they're doing a march, go film it. He took the photos that were really the catalyst of the civil rights movement. And his daughter, a couple of years ago, said, I want to be able to show my father's photos, and I want to be able to tell a story. And at the time, there was a photographer friend of mine, Jim Gavanis, also is an instructor at the college, that was like, I go down to Selma all the time, and I know Spider's daughter. And I'm like, really? Well, let's get together and figure out how we can make something interactive. And from my early days in video and broadcast, when I was shooting Battle of Wyoming, Pennsylvania State Police, or a bunch of PBS documentaries, I always wanted to be able to go into a battlefield and hold up a device and talk to a soldier. I always just wanted to be like there, where I could like point on you as a soldier, and you're like, hi. And then I could be like, point on your satchel that you have, and you could be like, oh, my father made this out of whatever. And I was always like, if I could ever figure that out. Now, back in the day when I shot those films, the best I could do is an interactive DVD where you kept linking through. So I said, I got a great idea. We're starting to experiment with augmented reality. Let's tell a story in a different way. Instead of doing a documentary where it goes from point A to point B, let's do it where everybody's a character and they all have their own content. And whether you're viewing the cards, which are these, we call them AVR cards, and each one has their own character on it, some information on the back, somebody in the historic timeline. And when you scan these videos and imagery pop up, we'll show you in a little bit. But what I can also do is, if I don't have the pack and say I'm a teacher, I can say, okay, you're LBJ, you're gonna be Martin Luther King, and you are going to be with the march. Now, great, you're looking at the cards, but there's videos connected to that will show you in a little bit. And now what you can do is, you're gonna learn about LBJ. And as a teacher, I'm gonna say to you, you're gonna do your report on him and what he did with the civil rights. It's due at the end of the week. And that's when all your students say, come on! At the end of the week, right? But then, when we come in and we start talking about it, and you're looking at the video that's playing on it, then you can say, well, you know, Martin Luther King came in on the 3rd March, and you can say, I am Martin Luther King. And now you put the story together, and now your 2 videos go longer. And you can come in at different times, and all be part of that same story. So maybe you come in at the 2nd or 3rd March, but you're at the first one. So how do you tell that story in between the people that have the other cards? This is what happened on the 2nd one. Now you have engagement, and it's a tool, because you still need that moderator, okay? Eric? So what we did is we created an app that went with this gallery exhibit that was traveling, and as it went through, they were able to go in to Spider Martin had his daughter had a ton of photos. And each one of those photos, Spider Martin had a story, and it wasn't released to the public yet. So when people went to the exhibit, if they used the Enterprise app that we created for her, you could scan the actual photos, and the stories would come alive as well. Eric? So we went further and we created decks that we could send out to high schools or whoever wanted to utilize them. And then, hit the next one. The cards tell a different story. This is what I was saying. You have the Selma card. You have when they were walking over with John Lewis, right there, walking over the bridge. A lot of people don't know he was there. Lyndon Johnson, go ahead, hit the next one, Eric. And so with each one of these cards, what you can do is you can scan the card and get that video. So let's say, let's do with you guys here. Let me load this up. Put the volume on. Now listen, my mother to this day is crazy. And she will call me endlessly. So if we're in the middle of this and you hear hear my phone say, "Mom, don't be annoyed if I ignore it, okay? Because I'm sure all of you have ignored your mother at one point or another. So those of you that are students, it never goes away. The older you get." So there's Lyndon Johnson. Come on over. So the car comes alive. Come over. Come on up, everybody. Right? So I hear car. So once I hear about him, then I'm going to come here. The video on the left. This is how you start telling the story.
So what's activating when it scans over the card?
So when it scans over the card, that's what's called a trigger. And the trigger is an area that we said, when the camera sees that, go out to our platform, and this is what's going to play.
What are you
This is
scanning it
what's gonna
with?
link to. What's that?
What are you scanning it with? An app?
An app, yes.
Okay.
Yep. So let's say, for example, let me go here, and I have these robot cards out. This is one of the STEM things that we're doing. So I have the app that's looking at me now, right? So these cards, say there's a class that wants to talk about robotics and stuff. So what I can do really quick is, I like that head, I like the pogo legs, I want to use those arms, and I'm going to do that torso. I just built my robot. All right, so, but you know what? I really don't like the way that that thing rolls around. I want it to fly. I'll scan that leg, and now I got the new legs. And then all I have to do is build the robot. And I'm sorry that you're going to see this, but I can fly him around. Oh, let me go back there. I can fly him around, move him around, and then when I stop, he'll land and be ready to go. So again, think about the possibilities if you think about it as telling a story, right? So, Eric, keep going. So again, we do micro kiosks that could also be scanned and so on. This is an example of, there's the photo. This is Linda Lowry. She was the youngest, she was 13. And at 13, she saw them marching over the bridge. And she's like, "What's going on?" And they're like, "Come walk with us." So she got over the bridge that's in the background. That's the Edmund Pettus Bridge, which is named after a Grand Marshal of the Ku Klux Klan, ironically. Came over the bridge with a bunch of people that she knew and some people she didn't. And she saw police officers on the other side. And as soon as you cross the bridge, there's a furniture store. And the person that owned the furniture store, where most of these people that were marching worked, opened the doors to the bystanders and gave them the legs that they just made for the furniture to beat the marchers. And Linda Lowry, when the gas and everything started going, this is a famous picture right here, when she ran up, when the gas bombs and stuff were going on, to a police officer for help, he punched her in the face and said, "Die." Now, I just told you that story, right? And I had emotion in my voice. That's the idea of those cards, because we can do that emotion, because now as an educator, I was able to use those to generate your interest, and now I'm able to use it as a tool so I can share with you one of those stories. You need to do that with your products and brands too. What can it be used for? I love this from this Annie Lumen. It isn't just for social media, video, content, it's for everything. Marketers, you can quickly see the value, where you're gonna place the content and so on. It's for everything, as long as you do right. I typically don't like statistics, but I thought this was interesting from business.com. 65% of users find ads annoying, which we just proved. 100% of us think that those ads are annoying that pop up, because nobody raised their hand that they love those. So if we give the control to the different people, then, all right, there's your tool belt. Give it to them, and they can interact with your brand when they want to. And it's more attractive, and like I said, when they want. So, Homestead National Bank, Elizabeth's over there looking down. So I sprung it
Yeah.
on you.
No,
So
I can,
do you want to? Are
absolutely.
you comfortable saying anything?
I certainly can.
So we can talk about our conversations and not that we had a lot, but
Sure, so I had an opportunity to meet with Kevin when we started to work with this conference, and Kevin presented the idea of AR, and as a marketer, I always felt that the technology was likely something that a small community bank like ourselves wouldn't be able to recognize or leverage based upon cost, expense. Kevin kind of quickly put that to bed for me, and immediately my ideas and opportunities kind of started to run wild, and we wanted to really put something together that was going to help us increase our business opportunities. So when I considered all the different verticals in a bank, one of the opportunities I thought of was our business and commercial banking area. Oftentimes we are out prospecting, doing cold calling sales efforts, which many businesses have to do. And it's oftentimes very difficult to differentiate yourself from one to the next. How many times are multiple banks going to visit a single entity and trying to make sure that after that visit that they're going to remember or retain who you are and come and learn more about your business. One of the things that we do, and many other banks do as well, is we have a leave behind, which is oftentimes something that is static content, boring, and something that they may read once, but then typically gets tossed aside on the desk, never leveraged again, and you just become a piece of wallpaper in their office or on their desk. So we said, how can we bring that content to life? How can we make sure that people are taking the time to learn more about who we are beyond the simple statistics or content that we have available on a simple 8.5 by 11 or other piece of material? And that's where
yep.
the
So you sent us
advertising came into play.
you sent us
Yes.
that actual piece,
That's correct.
and since you guys created the content, or let's say that you had it around, you could just take a picture with your phone with the new platform that we're about to
correct.
release. And so you said this. We want this to be the trigger for a video. We want this to be a trigger to link to the business page.
Correct.
We have a little infographic for this one and an infographic for that. So basically what you do is, those are called your targets. And so you'll add them. So with the photo, what'll happen is, there, and the video will start. So when anybody scans that video, the president's talking. Now my phone was on. Sorry about that. On that mailer. So now the video becomes an integrated piece. And then, Eric, if you hit the next one. So, what happens here are these little icons. If you notice this is the icon that tells you the app. Now, there's a couple of different things that you can do. You can have your own custom apps, or as you were asking, we have AR Launchpad that we're releasing, so they'll put the little rocket ship on there and just down at the bottom do a little bit of an explanation. The more users that jump onto the platform, the more instances you're going to be able to see. And right now, with us playing, how many times a camera hit, we're watching the numbers go up and we're like, holy crap, that's just us playing around with it. So, but as you put them all together, you will see there's the pie chart. And again, I'm sorry about the phone. There is the new graphic that I could zoom in and walk down Main Street. And then on this one, I'm going to scan it. It's going to take me right to the website that she wants to promote it. Okay? So, Eric, next one. So again, this is the little icon, and it just pretty much says anything with this little icon next to it, use the app, scan it, and you're going to have an augmented experience. So we're excited to be working with you on this. And you're a sponsor here at the event, so we have to thank Don for hooking us up together.
I couldn't agree more.
And we got to go to the, what was the name of that coffee house that we met at down here in town?
Oh, well,
What the heck was
spray
it?
and roasting, like that.
I forget. There's
Electric
a
City Roasting.
Yes.
Yes.
Has anybody been there?
Yes.
That was my first time ever there. What a cool place that is. So, again, just putting it together, something simple as a flyer. Now, the beautiful thing is, as a company, what we did was we had clients that would say to us, like the Selma projects, the solar space, and so on. Three main things that people think about when they think about AR. It's going to cost so much money. The second thing they're going to think about is, I'm going to go onto one of those platforms and I got to learn the software, or I have to have somebody learn the software so they can crop in the images and put the 3D in. And then lastly, I just did marketing materials a year ago. I don't have the budget to do anything new, right? So we would hear this and we would say, geez, I wish there was a way to do it. And then we're like, wait a second, we created a platform to do our educational stuff. Let's just let people use the platform and do it themselves and not worry about having a third-party piece of software that they really have to learn. So what we've pretty much done is we've given you guidelines for the videos and the links and everything you need. And look at that. And all you have to do simply is 5 clicks, upload your trigger, upload where it's gonna go, what it's gonna load to, hit submit, and then when they refresh the app, it's live. It's gonna be pretty simple for you to do, right? So AR is coming to all of you. There's opportunities out there. Again, the most important thing, not to have a pitch for the thing, hit the next screen. We did our little brand, our little product placement there. So basically, with AR, tell your story and use it as a tool to push that, okay? So what we're gonna do is, there's a couple minutes for Q&A. Also, my staff is here, my team, Vic DeLuca, Eric Thomas, and Bennett Lipsky. They work with me in the office in Wilkes-Barre. We all have our devices loaded up. We have a bunch of cards, play with the robots, experiment around, and ask questions. So we're gonna leave it open, and maybe they have questions for you as well.
Probably a question for you, Kevin.
Mhm.
So if you're giving that platform away, how are you making money off of that?
The platform, well, we're giving the app away for anyone that wants to use it. To get our platform, there's subscriptions that you pay every month. And you get so many triggers and targets and so many views.
Okay.
Yep, that's it. And then if you get a subscription level, you could swap those out every 5 minutes if you want, put new content up. So,
One additional question. Have you thought of working with publishers?
yes, for books, yes.
Who are you working with? Are you working with anyone?
Nobody yet.
Yeah, I'm a publisher.
Let's talk.
Yeah.
Because we can totally make those books come alive. So, yes, we will talk.